right, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Litchfield Energy Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and now we'll have the roll call of members. Sam Terrell, Chair. I'll start with
Eric Olson.
Citizens Rep.
Citizens
I think
Rep.
is what we're using.
Sorry.
John Burdell, Selectman Rep.
Kim Kleiner, Town Administrator.
Okay, light crew, and we have Emily Mans here from Community Power. Welcome.
Standard Power.
Oh, I'm sorry. Standard Power. So we have approval of the minutes from July 17th, but I think with only 3 members present, we should put that off for next time. So we'll just go straight into Emily. We have an update from Standard Power.
Okay. Well, so it's good to be here with you. Appreciate this opportunity to update the town on your community power program. We, of course, were hoping to have a program launched by now, but the program will not launch without savings, and we haven't seen the right conditions for signing a contract. So I'm just here to, I'll go through a quick update and then answer questions about where we are, pricing, whatever questions the committee has. So I organized, so I handed out a piece of paper. It has 2 sides. On the front side, I just went through kind of a synopsis of the program and questions that you may have heard or may face, and potential, answers around those topics. And again, we can refine this if this is a useful document for you. Litchfield chose a stable rate program. That means the rates will be stable for longer than the utility default rate, which changes every 6 months. So stated another way, a customer that participates in the program, their rate won't change unless they make a change for the period of the contract. And then the contracts are typically 12 to 30 months, and then they go through a renewal process and they renew. So that's a stable rate program. It provides, it's intended to provide savings, and we will launch with savings for the program. But the stability of the rate also protects against market volatility, which we've seen in the, especially in the Eversource default, service rates over the last few years. So all rates and terms are known when the contract is signed. So that point in time is when we really launch our outreach program to customers, when we know that the customers are told specific rates, they know the term of the contract, they know the supplier, they know how to get help, they know where to sign up for the program, they have several opportunities to opt out of the program if they choose to do that. And that is about 90 days before we even begin to enroll customers. So we have a period of time of intense outreach when customers, customers, if any customers are listening now, they don't need to do anything now. There's nothing happening now. They will have plenty of time once we sign the contract to, become aware of the program's starting and to make a choice about their participation. Just a reminder about some of the elements. Customers can come and go from the program without program fees, and there's no individual customer contracts. There's no cost to the municipality. And then I've just put a couple of sort of, update and kind of higher level topics, which there are no reserve funds. All of the money collected or all the fees are all in the contract. And then we have an opportunity to integrate renewable resources in your plan, and we can go over that and, further down in the agenda if you're interested. So program will not launch without savings relative to the utility default. the New Hampshire Department of Energy established that that point in time could be now. So Litchfield could sign a contract now if we beat the utility default now, even for an April start. So, so that would be fine, but I believe that Litchfield's chosen to wait for the default rates to change. So we'll go into pricing in December for an April or for a spring start. Actually, let me talk about a window. So we would be in pricing from when the Eversource utility rate is determined, the new rate is determined, through March or April in order to get pricing during the same time period. That's a constraint on launch. Once we're in renewal phase, we don't have that constraint anymore. We can just find the best prices we can in the year. So this is a launch constraint. And as I said, if you thought, if this committee or the town determined that if we could beat the utility rate today, you could sign a contract today. That's a choice of the town to make. And then savings relative to future rates are the goal. This is modeled after programs popular with larger customers, commercial industrial customers who get consistent savings. It's a goal of the program, but they can't be guaranteed because we do not know future rates. Nobody does. Everybody predicts them. Nobody can promise you future rates. It just can't happen. Energy markets are very complicated. And I've written a couple of elements here further down on my list here, but so we hope to launch you sooner. Essentially the long-term rates for programs have been above the short-term utility rates, to make a long story short. So, but we do have promising April pricing that is below current utility rates, and so we're optimistic about an early spring price. But if we don't get an April price or program start, then we have all the way till June or July to in the next rate period. And just in general in pricing, future rates have been quite stable between 10 and 11 cents a kilowatt hour. So like a penny difference in pricing is about $6 a month on an average customer bill. So it sounds like a lot, like if we could get 10 cents, yay, if we're 11 cents, boo. But it actually, for customers, I mean, we look for every penny of savings, but in terms of it, we want to balance going under contract at all and protecting from the upside with, trying to time that last few mils. So just to give, just to have the scale in mind, I think is really important as we go through this pricing exercise. And then the market does seem very stable over the past year, really, or it's been between 10 and 11 cents, which has been above the short-term rates. But there are upward pressures. There are reasons to believe we could have price shocks. So I don't think anybody really would expect it to go to 22 cents again. Like, that's a shock that we're not anticipating seeing, with the caveat that nobody predicts it. But really, that was unusual. We're not predicting. I'm not saying that, but I would say the chances of it going up, 12, 14, 16 cents are higher than it going down 8, 6, 4 cents. Like, it's not going there. So one of the elements is increasing natural gas capacity, export capacity. So the current government has sort of slowed that down, but we are at the moment insulated from global prices for natural gas, which holds our electricity prices somewhat more stable than oil prices, which are exposed to the full global market. So if the more we increase the capacity, then the more we're exposed to global markets. Uncertainty regarding offshore wind in New England, we keep, it keeps being 2 or 3 years in the future, so it's unlikely to affect any sort of launch program, but it may come and may provide some good savings possibly for your program. And then I just put the contract prices are pretty level, and then rise at the end, which is quite unusual actually to have rising prices over, but the stability is a good sign. So I've already really talked about that a spring price start looks favorable. And so we're just preparing for that. And so we're in indicative pricing. Utility rates reset in December. So, we'll just be ready to go when we see those rates and see competitive market rates. So I think that's really, and I really did cover, so on the other side, I did have the timeline in case you had any questions, but I did really already go through what I intended to cover on this side, which is the timing of the next steps, that we really have 90 days once we sign that contract to go out for customers. So if you wanted to put something fresh on your webpage, we could do that. If you wanted to do some sort of outreach, but there's no news to share. So, that's really, I guess that really covers what I had, hoped to share with you today. And, if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is helpful. I hope this answers a lot of the public's questions on what's going on. You say there's no news, but I think the news is that the rates still have not become favorable, and we're looking at a spring launch potentially. So I don't know if that's something we can put somewhere publicly easily on the front page or somewhere else.
Certainly, we can put anything on the webpage that you'd like. I know, we've gotten phone calls at Town Hall. People wondering what is happening, has it launched, and we've been explaining to the best that we can. I think that most of the individuals have wondered, well, should they stay with their current contract, or and certainly we're not there to give advice as to individual finances, so we always tell people that you should look at the market and just make a decision on your own. But where I think some people don't have a knowledge base on how often they change. Like, they know that all of a sudden their utility bill changes, but they don't know when that is. And so if the rate sets, and you have here like December 24th, is that when people see it in February on their Eversource bill?
Correct. Yes, on their own bill. So the rate would change on their February bill, and then they would see it on their March bill.
Okay.
So that's sometimes how people get confused, because there's always that month lag on them.
Right.
But yes, the rates are announced in late December. I meant December 2024. That's the year. But in late December 2024 for February, and then in June, generally in June for an August start. That's when it changes.
Okay.
We do give the advice for people going into the competitive market not to sign a contract with exit fees. So, I would say that typically, and there's a website that you can go on and look at all the rates, the ones with exit fees are no better than the ones with no exit fees. Like, the exit fees, there's some complicated, not very good information on there, but so it's just a good policy to just stay away from a program that has exit fees. It's not going to save you money.
The New Hampshire Department of Energy website, or what website is that?
Yes, it's the New Hampshire Department of Energy. It's their comparison shopping website.
Okay.
So that's how I find it. I just write New Hampshire comparison shopping, and it actually comes up, quite high in the. It's not. There is a commercial website that is sponsored that sometimes comes up in front of that. So you're looking for the New Hampshire Government Department of Energy website.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll compare all your rates. That has the community power rates. That has everything on it. Yeah.
And I think we were just talking about. There's quite a few towns that are waiting to launch. We're not the only one.
Yes, we have 18 towns that are waiting to launch.
And so when we do go out for competitive pricing, do we look at both together, some towns together and individually?
Yes, so we don't hold up, if we can do something favorable for your town, then we would never hold you back. So if, we do have towns that theoretically say they would go now if we can get favorable pricing, so they are in pricing now and they could sign. Now, nobody's done that yet, but it's possible. Otherwise, we price you individually and then in logical groups, because you have Eversource service territory. That's somewhat simpler than communities with more utilities. We're still figuring out whether it really hurts the rate. I believe I've said before, customers don't really see it past the third decimal point. We get pricing out to 5 decimal points, but customers on their bills don't really see it past the third decimal point. So I'm not sure customers would actually see the difference. But so it's more related to timing. So we do probably will have a big, group go in April if, that pricing at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, the beginning of the year is favorable. And it's not the worst case scenario is that historically the best prices would be more like March or April. And so if we can't get, I do understand, I think we have a mild winter coming, we may, or fingers are crossed, for great pricing in January, like it was last year. But at worst, if that pricing window stays open and we'll just, we won't launch if we're not sure, or we'll tell you the pricing at the time and you can make a decision. But, and in that case, we could have some people go in April and some go in June, and that'll be just up to the towns that want to get underway, as I said, to just get underway for the benefits of that, and the ones that want to try and time the market and get a March or April price, which may or may not be better, but historically is the best time to buy in the year.
Okay. So can I ask one more? So I've gotten this question quite a few times, and difference between community power and community power of New Hampshire.
Yes, so CPCNH, Community Power, Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, CPCNH, the coalition, they kind of let people call them community power, but they're not. The community power is the RSA 53E, the PUC 2200 rules. It's a program option for towns. It's not owned by CPCNH or any one organization. As a practical matter, there are 3 organizations providing services in New Hampshire for more than one community at the moment. So so Community Power, CPCNH, is one of the 3 providers, and they have, I think they've launched like 50 communities now, and we have 28 communities, of which 7 are launched, and then there's a 3rd provider as well that has half a dozen maybe, or more or less 4, 6, something like that.
But isn't there a difference between?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
CPCNH
yes.
and the community power. So I'm not quite sure how residents have found out about. I don't know if they've been actively engaged in conversation or if they've received literature. But I know that they're talking about the coalition by certain municipalities. Like, I mean, when they say certain names, I know they belong to CPCNH. And that's generally how I know which one they're talking about. But what's the main difference between the two?
So it's how we approach providing services to communities under the community power rules. We provide a stable rate program that's similar to brokerage services for larger customers. We think that follows the purpose of the law, which is to bring the power of the market to small customers. We have a single electric services agreement that is between the town and the supplier. It's for fixed term rates. We have a sort of a simple project. We all of the risk for market rate changes and for load stay with the supplier. So it's a stable rate program. CPCNH is a power agency, so they have several agreements between the communities that sort of enable and also compel them to certain actions. There's a joint powers agreement, there's a cost sharing agreement, there's a risk management document, and then I think, and their rates, essentially for customers, their rates change every 6 months.
Okay.
And I believe they can change the rates anytime, but their intention is to change the rates when the utility rates change. So, but where we use the market and a blind competitive bid, so we just have market rates, they can manipulate their rates to be above or below the market. They set rates. It's a board of directors. It has, I believe it has 21 communities on it, so representatives from many but not all of the communities, and they get together and, they have consultants and expert advice, and they have staff, and they set their rates every 6 months. And other products, they have a number of, they have some interesting products. They have some neat things going on. They're a new agency, so they are still building their reserves to be creditworthy. There are, but they are, going concern providing services in New Hampshire. And it's just a matter of what, choices the community wants to make, but how to provide a program.
So all agreements, all community power programs go before the PUC, and they are approved by the PUC. So like ours did with Standard Power, and that's true for CPCNH as well, right? Only the Power Utilities Commission can approve a program.
Yes, that's right. So I'll give you an example of the difference that, which is that, so CPCNH and Standard Power and our partner Good Energy went to market the same week in March of 2023 for our programs. Us with the stable rate program, and then with a variable rate program, with their program. And our rate was 11.1 cents, and their rate was 15.8 cents. So they changed rates again 4 months later. So, but they collect, they had the ability, they're a nonprofit, they collected the, essentially they funded their enterprise with, and it is a lot, it's like millions of dollars that's from their own documents. So they provided a stake to get going. Right. And then they just set their rates every 6 months based on, all the information that they have. But that's how, that's the difference between a stable rate program and a, fixed rate. And Keene chose 30 months, so they could have been up already, and they chose to go 30 months,
At the 11.
Pardon me?
At the 11.
At the 11 cents, yes, yeah. Yeah.
So, right now, if you were in that contract, you could switch over to, if Eversource was the provider, and then go back if and when Eversource goes up, right?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to manage your power supply, this is a great option among all of the options. You keep all of your current options, and then this adds a new one, so you can come and go from the program. That's right. But for people who, just want the peace of mind for the stable rates, then that's, and the point of being able to change your rates more often is that it's puts some price risk on customers, because now you don't know your rate. You know your rate 30 days before the rate change. You don't get that benefit of a stable rate program. You're still waiting to see what it is, and it,
Right.
You know, and they have, the other thing I want to sort of compare is that our overhead, we charge $1 per kilowatt hour, like that's our fee. But they are building staff and have more substantial overhead. So whether they can use that to get savings, maybe that works out and maybe it doesn't. Like that's just sort of taking, you imagine like sort of taking the reins of something and actively managing a portfolio of, you know, something versus letting, are you
Market.
Vanguard, Fidelity, or actively managing? Like what does, what is your preference for risk? What do you want to do with your program? That's the kind of choices, roughly. I mean, that's
Right.
a gross comparison, but that's the. But I do want to say though that we get a lot of questions about why their rates are lower than ours, lower than the market now. And and they have a couple of levers they can pull, which is that they have reserve funds. And so when communities start at a rate that's below the market rate, then their reserve fund is negative, starts in negative. So that's a future obligation, but that's a current cost. Like communities can't just walk away from that contract. They owe that money back.
Right.
So that really did seem like a, we thought they couldn't beat the market, like no, really the market is the market, but maybe there are some elements, and actually I can talk about an element that where someone could introduce an element that could genuinely help a rate, and that's available to CPC&H and available to us. But in general, the market is really out there. Their supplier Calpine is not giving them special prices for a long time.
Right.
So it's the look and feel and whether you want to be managed by a supplier or managed by a group of communities. Those are choices that the different communities are making.
So you said the rates are going to be announced in December, late December. Is there a day that we should be looking for, or is that kind of floating depending on the situation? Do you know?
Actually, I didn't look before I came, but last year I believe it was December 20th for Eversource. So it goes, and again, from last year, and I can probably tell you the date at this point exactly. Okay. But Unitil goes the first week of December, and then Liberty the second week, and then Eversource the third week, and then the co-op at the end. So they propose rates, and then they are approved shortly. In the summer, they proposed the rates, and they were denied, and so they weren't finalized till mid-July. So that kind of threw a wrench in our plans as well. But so there's no guarantee, but generally the 20th is when. So we do have a few days, and last year that was a great pricing window. Happened to be before the end of the year.
Okay, and where can we go to see that?
Actually, the Office of the Consumer Advocate tweets it.
Oh.
That's the first place.
That's the best place?
Everybody sees it, yeah. No, I mean, it's probably a week ahead of, because he gets the filing.
Yeah.
He has tweeted it consistently. So that's where to look.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Office of the Consumer Advocate.
The Office of the Consumer Advocate. But I'll just take a note here. I can, so I'll just write the date of the Eversource filing, so you could start to look out for it, and then, I know what I was going to write down. The Public Utility Commission website, the virtual file room, they'll have a file where the documents are filed. So you have to dig a little bit in there, though. That's why it's nice to just see that. But I can find the docket number.
The Office of Consumer Advocate is all utilities, correct?
Right, well,
Or is there a
yes,
different
the-
one for different utilities?
No, it's the same, it's the same. There are 3 regulated utilities, and then the New Hampshire Electric Co. is not rate regulated. So, so they do comply with lots of the same rules and are subject to community power rules, that sort of thing, but they're a little bit different. But yeah, the OCA's office is, if you Google Office of Consumer Advocate, he'll come up. And I think, so then he tweets it, and then other people write about it. So that really is how, it really does arrive that way a week before it.
Okay. Okay,
gets
so we'll be
uploaded.
on the lookout then on December 20th for that news.
Okay, yeah, and then, yeah, if it's different than that, then I'll get that information to you. I wrote it down, so,
Thanks.
yeah. And then we just, so the suppliers do have other options. We didn't hear from them for a few weeks ago, because they were madly renewing and doing programs in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts rates are higher. So hopefully they'll be, we're going to line them up to be razor focused on us, so that for that timing in New Hampshire.
All right. Any more questions? No. Are there any other common questions you get from phone calls?
No, I think I covered it all. I mean, I think people have asked where they can go for more information, so maybe getting this onto our website may be a good option. I think people have heard, well, isn't there gonna be a community power? And like we were just speaking, we'll have the community power, Litchfield Community Power website when we have more information, like rates and things of that sort. But, so that's what I've explained to people. I think people related the passing of the warrant article with the launching of the program. So I received a lot more phone calls at the beginning, April, May, June. And because they thought, well, the warrant article passed, so you have to launch. And, I've explained, no, one really has nothing to do with the other. You have to have the passing of the warrant article, the agreement of the community, but that doesn't mean that you have to launch within a certain period of time. And we certainly wouldn't want that if the rates aren't favorable.
Yeah.
Well, and at that point, customers were enjoying a penny and a half refund from the utility, from Eversource. So, that really they might, people were a little anxious to get going, but then they're like, oh no, wait a minute, I could take that money back. I mean, that's what I wish the Office of Consumer Advocate would be more advocating, is when rates were 22 cents and level at that, like a little lower there, and then, because the swings have been really extreme. It's, that's extreme for customers. Yeah.
Yeah, so do we expect this refund period to end, and then we'll kind of be on even playing field? Because I remember when we were first learning about this and you were presenting, you showed that Community Power did a really good job of being below the Eversource rate and staying below. And so I think people might worry that, it's been above for so long now, we might have 1 month where Community Power price comes below and triggers everything, and then just goes back up, and now everyone's paying more. I don't think that's the way that it will work, but just trying to think of some concerns the public might have. Do you think that's something that could happen, or do you think when the Eversource price corrects, it'll kind of stabilize there?
So I try not to,
Yeah,
but also to be responsive to your question. I think the period we've just been through has been very volatile. I don't think Eversource intended to overcharge customers and then give them a big refund. Honestly, I don't think that was their intent.
Right.
also don't think, I think that what happened with the 22 cents, I think Europe is more kind of resilient now. I think we're kind of got shocked into being, understanding a little bit more about our own energy supply. So I'm hopeful that that's not true. And I know that that's not true now. They set their refund in, sort of buried in some documents in the spring, and they always do a small adjustment, so they'll always do a little bit of adjustment, but it's back to normal. I can't remember now, but a couple of mils, so higher or lower can, go either direction, so. So that's not our intent. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, great.
And we still have commercial industrial customers writing long contracts, like we're not, like that part hasn't changed, it's just got really like, kind of more difficult with, and then mild weather in the winter, and, things are just changing, so, but we do expect the competitive market to beat the utility default.
All right, looking forward to it.
So
Yeah,
what do
so-
mild temperatures do? I mean, how do they affect the rate?
Yeah.
Lowers demand, right?
So typically the electric rate is very sensitive to the price of gas. And the price of gas is sensitive to the amount of natural gas in storage. And so you can follow along with the storage report and see, through 2024, it was above the 5-year average. It was setting a new 5-year high. Not above the average, it was above the 5-year high level since, I don't know, I can't remember when it started, but basically since December of last year.
'Cause
And
we
it
weren't
stayed
drawing it
there.
down.
We weren't drawing it down because of
Okay.
the mild weather. So and especially getting through the mild winter, then we just started into the spring. Now, other things happen. Wells do get shut in. So gas wells get shut in, but then if the oil price goes up, then oil wells produce, and they produce natural gas as a byproduct. So that suppresses the rate again. So there's a lot of moving parts. I believe Biden's stopped some export capacity coming online, so that again affects that's actually a really sensitive factor for natural gas, and we know that because the Freeport facility went offline suddenly. They had an explosion, and they were like 2 billion cubic feet a day or something, and that was when the prices went like this. Very important factor for prices. So it hasn't been following it as exactly as it used to be. We used to be able to look at the gas prices every day and say, let's call the suppliers for some good pricing because the price is down. And the
Right.
electricity market is a little bit decoupled from it now. It seems a little more sluggish going up and down than it was more reactive. And maybe it'll get back to normal, or, and maybe it'll continue to tamp its own path.
So somewhat, it's like your basic economics that you
Supply
learn in
and
school,
demand.
supply and demand, more
absolutely.
supply.
Except sensitive, if the price goes down this morning or up this afternoon, then the price can change. Gone are the days where, and you must know this for municipal power, you can't wait a week. If someone gives you a price, you can't wait a week and get
Right.
that price. You have to jump on it. It's hours, not days now. So, and that's why I like to mention about the bill impact, like that penny impact is it's our business to play the odd, like get the best price we can, but in the end, like even a penny difference is, not a disaster for, or it's a celebration, I guess, for fun, not for,
Yeah.
And
It's a difference for
location
customers.
matters, right? I mean, different areas of the country. So
Oh, yeah.
Massachusetts is typically higher
Yeah,
than New Hampshire.
yeah.
What about like Maine, Vermont, other New England?
I'm not sure. Vermont, I believe, is more stable, so it's more like the New Hampshire Electric Co-op because they're not deregulated like New Hampshire. I'm honestly not sure about Maine. I cannot remember if they're deregulated or not, whether they have the same volatility, the same, whether they have, I think they do have competitive supply, so I think they have the same, similar options, but, yeah, but Massachusetts rates are significantly higher, Connecticut typically significantly higher, Rhode Island. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, is there anything else you'd like to add?
We just had, just one sort of cool thing. It's probably not going to be ready for your launch, but we are, so Standard Power has been around for like 13 years, something like that, but we were acquired by a company called Relevate Power, that we still operate as our, doing business out, like it's an independent, entity. But Relevate Power's goal is to have 24/7 renewable energy products, and so they own, they control, and they are acquiring mostly hydro assets in New England, in some in New Hampshire, Maine, New York, and so we've been working on getting those benefits of those plants over to community power programs. And just the way that would work is that they would set a rate for, for a contract for a portion of your power that would be, below the utility default rate, and then for a period of time, and we blend that into your program. And the neat thing about hydro resources, so Litchfield doesn't have a renewable energy goal, but hydro resources do produce, they're not like solar that, like do this and that they have like that base load, so they
Their base
provide
load,
power
right.
during, so to the extent that, we ever have time of use sort of rates or anything like that, then that's when the, sort of the goal of the entity is. I don't know how excited you are about renewable energy, but I am. It's really why I joined Standard Power, because I think, we have solutions and we need to go out and get them, for energy efficiency, for renewable energy, for, nuclear power, like I guess SMRs are, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to see
people
them
talk
take
about
off a
them.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, they
But
again, they always seem a little bit in the future, but.
But I do know that hydro is a really, really great source. It doesn't have the setbacks that solar and wind may have, like you said, it's base load, and it's not controlled by the wind, so. Where, I guess, like, Relevate is acquiring these assets that already exist, or they're making new hydro plants?
Hydro, already exists, already exists.
Okay.
But they automate them, they make improvements, there's money right now, there's federal money for bringing up renewable energy assets, so, and that's, if you've ever applied for a federal grant, it's a complicated process, so putting that effort in, and getting even a third of your project cost back or something like that is a way to make a project like that, increasing the output, provide, so it's an existing dam that we maximize the potential from, and that's what creates, more available energy for customers, that is somewhat under our control. Like if we, really it always depends on timing, really, and if somebody wants a 20-year contract, that's not going to work for community power. But if we can figure out how to, work the amounts into, then because we do, they can provide savings as well as renewable energy. So that's the,
Very cool.
And that's something the town is currently taking advantage of, because we are in a contract with other communities through NRPC, National Regional Planning Commission, and Standard Power, and we have a piece of that contract that gives us money back from the hydro, and through another agreement with the hydro. So the town is currently, through NRPC, taking advantage of that program. I think there's 2 in Nashua, 2 dams in hydro facilities? Or
I,
is there
I
one- just one,
I
not-
believe
no?
so. I'm not sure that they're part of our program, but yes, those dams are in New Hampshire. Those are all,
Yes.
that's our so that's a good point. That's net metering. So there's net metering,
Mhm.
there's renewable energy certificates, and then there's the power. I mean, that's what, we're
Yeah,
talking
the
about
actual
is
power, yeah.
that it actually is producing,
Yeah.
when you need it, so. But yeah, of course, the municipality participates in net metering.
And our contract is yearly. So
Mhm. Yeah.
it generally goes, through, I think August, July, August, that time frame. Because that was one of the things that we had to look at as a town. We're under contract and we'll wait for the community power, until that contract. But we have saved significantly. I think last, when we renewed, I want to say maybe 6 months ago, the rates came out and we looked and we had already saved, over the course of 2 years, about $80,000. So, and that's just a number of municipalities that have gotten together under this contract through National Regional Planning, so.
Yeah, that's a great program.
Mhm.
The municipality, as far as joining the community power program, that'll be a decision you can make at the time. Sometimes the municipalities have a load curve that's more favorable and you can get better rates with the municipal buying group rather
Yeah.
than the community power group. So we'll just, when we have more experience with that, we'll, be able to, you'll be able to, because it'll be just numbers.
Right.
Right.
But I think more
Right.
options are always better.
Absolutely,
Right, always having
absolutely, yeah.
other options
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. But that hydro program is, provide savings to you, whether or not, would continue to provide savings to the municipality, whichever way you went.
But I
as far as I
certainly,
know.
and I understand the residents' concerns because just like the residents, we all got the notices, we have, about 8 or 9 different Eversource bills, depending on location.
Mhm.
And, we got the increases, and as we're planning our 2025 budget, we're looking at the, increases that we'd see, and, it was significantly impacting the 2025 budget. So I can certainly understand with the high cost of food and everything else out there, right now, I think people are watching every penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to save money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a difficult time.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about our next meeting. Seeming as we probably won't have an update in November, I don't think it would make sense to meet unless there's some other item on the agenda that we should be talking about. So, and then December, if it is December 20th, that would be the day after the third Thursday, which is when we usually would meet. So, I think it would make the most sense to meet again in January.
Or would it, I mean.
Unless you want to have a special meeting, not on our regularly scheduled third Thursday.
I think that's a good question, because I think the Board of Selectmen, I don't want to speak for the board, but I would imagine that they would be interested in the committee's thought process on the rates and how we move forward once we know
What they are, yeah.
what they are. So perhaps a meeting late December, or maybe we want to not schedule it and see how it progresses and,
Yeah, we don't have to have anything firm right now.
um, yeah, I think that having the group weigh in on where we go as a community is important because you've weighed in on the whole program up to this point, so. And I'm imagining it moves as quickly as we thought it would have in July. I mean, once you have a rate, it's days, like.
Yeah, so the pricing, the way it happens sort of at the end or right before the contract is signed is we do indicative pricing typically like Wednesday or Thursday of the week, and then we like that pricing. We might even like a supplier at that point. We don't tell them that, it's a blind process, but we may, so we'd have a meeting with you to say, is this in the ballpark, are we gonna go? And then we would do pricing day on Tuesday. The person who's gonna sign the contract would be available for a 2-hour window in the middle of that day. And we would go if the prices didn't degrade, if we got a better price or about the same. So there's a small window to, I don't know, look over the ESA, or, there's just that small window, but it's as a blind bid process, we include as few people as possible. And that's to protect, and I mean, I'm talking in 18 communities, so that's like at least 18, but, or more or less. But it's fine to have the person signing and an alternate. You can even go to the select board if they have can't be a public meeting, so you can't have a quorum or anything like that, but you can involve other people. They just need to understand that if someone says the numbers out loud, it affects everybody, and it's not, that's even the number of suppliers that are bidding is important to somebody in the process.
Yeah.
So that's just that caveat. Otherwise, there are a few days in there if someone can be available to.
Okay, so then we should really just be expecting more of a snap meeting late in December, I think.
Right, I think the pricing will come out. We can certainly discuss that, but I mean the pricing.
You mean Eversource pricing?
The Eversource
Right,
pricing.
right.
But
whether
we
we're
won't be able
working
to,
toward,
we won't know anything about our program's pricing. And, I think we had worked it out with the board when we thought of launching. The board meets on Monday nights. We wouldn't have known until Tuesday, so I kind of had a contact that, and it would have been go, and I would have gone on behalf of the board. But, I think just like any other commodity, so I come from the wire and cable business in my past life, and copper is a huge commodity. So copper pricing goes like that, and that's,
Right.
it's another one that you generally have very closed sessions and you're talking, and you don't know until you sign a contract. But
Well, and as I said, so last year, just between Unitil and Eversource was a full pen, or no, was it 2 cents? No, I've forgotten. No, I think it was 2 cents.
2 cents,
that went.
yeah.
So Unitil's rate was 10.5, and Eversource had the refund. That's why. But anyway, so 10.5, 9.5, and 8.5 cents for over a 2-week period. So we can tell you ahead that it's this rate or that rate, but it could move either direction. So that's why we just need the be as nimble as you can, and just clear up front about whether, once you see the rates, if you say, we want to be, we'll take anything under that rate, or
Right.
we won't take any, we need to be at some point, if you set parameters that are real, like that, then that's the kind of thing we can, we don't bring them to the suppliers, of course, we just hold them and look for the opportunity, but, yeah.
Okay.
So now something I know less about, but I know Eric knows more about. How does the time of season affect those that are net metering with solar?
Well, shorter days, less solar, you know, so.
And as someone that is looking at net metering, are you looking at that whole period and you're kind of figuring that difference into it? I mean, you know how much supply you need, right, to run?
I mean, it depends how consistent your power usage is. It can vary a lot depending on what you do. You know, do you cook at home a lot? Do you charge a car? How often do you do laundry? Do you have guests? Do you know, you have seasonal energy uses? Are you using power outside for lighting or,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and if you plug in an electric heater, you burn it quick, you know. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that can change your impact depending on what exactly you're doing with your power. But yeah, I mean, if you understand what your power usage is going to be and you're a consistent person that has a consistent like usage schedule, you can go back through the history of it and see how much you use in each part of the year and probably project what you're going to use in the future. Projecting what you're going to get from sunlight's a little more difficult because obviously, you know, the weather varies. So just because, you know, it should be a sunny month in general doesn't mean it's going to be. But and then of course, you know, the rates vary too. So
Right.
you know, there's a bit of guesswork involved, and you know, the size and angle and quality of solar panels vary, and the, you know, tree foliage varies. There's just all kinds of things that can potentially affect how much power you're getting. Lots of variables. Lots of variables.
Unpredictable.
Yeah.
That's a good summary.
But you can look, like you said, you can look at statistical,
Yeah.
historical
you can
data.
make an educated guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find this very fascinating. Is it like you have these storage, right, where somewhere
batteries.
the batteries, okay. Is it like a battery, do you have like something that tells you how much is in that battery?
Yeah.
So it's 90% full or it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, just like your phone shows you how
Yes,
charged it is.
good analogy, yes.
Except
Okay.
a little more complicated.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, as someone, I mean, I've just never been involved in solar, I don't know.
Hey,
Do you have solar?
No, I do not.
Yeah,
I can't get enough power out of my house to run my house, and I don't wanna be paying any electricity if I can avoid it, so. And it's like you said, it's all about the quality of the sun, the angle and all that stuff, and I'm not interested in having panels in the front of the house, so.
the
Yeah.
trees and, yeah.
Yeah. You wanna learn solar, go down to LMS. They have a nice solar project going on down there. You see all-
Yeah.
you can
And
see
it's
all the
for
panels.
educational purposes too, so they probably have a whole
I don't know.
presentation they can give
Maybe,
you.
hopefully, you'd think.
I thought that was part of the project, is that it was gonna not only generate electricity, but also be educational for,
I don't know if that's the case or not.
Oh, no?
It was all about saving money, which, I mean,
Well,
if
that's the
it all
primary.
works
Yeah.
out well, it will save them money,
yeah, yeah.
so.
It's not hard to put a display though, either on their website or even in if someone has a screen to just put it up there, you can just like watch the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, for
See, I think
some
that
of
would
us,
be
that's
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting.
Well, because it counts, you know, kilowatt hours and
Yeah.
it can count carbon and so you can, you know, you just see the numbers go up and up. Like that is a really great, you know, passive educational opportunity, and then to hopefully draw kids into engineering and,
Right.
yeah, we did that
Yeah.
in our high school, and people were skeptical about how much it would save and whether it would be educational, and it's now, you know, front and center on the,
Yeah.
you know, Conville's website, because it's a popular, you know, amenity really for the
Right,
community.
I mean, I see more and more solar, you know, in the community I live in, going up, and, of course, we don't have the what beautiful foliage that we have here in Litchfield, so I always wondered, you know, does that play into it? Like if your home is surrounded by trees,
The majority of the houses on my street would not be good candidates for solar. I happen to have a pretty open front yard and get a lot of sun there, so, yeah. But yeah, it depends a lot, yeah. Like
Yeah,
my-
it's very
my- yeah.
specific to the
Na-
site and
Neighbors,
the user,
neighbors to
yeah.
either side of me would not do well with the solar setup. So,
right?
yeah, it just depends.
But if you're a school like LMS and it's a big roof with no trees around, guess there you are.
They should be, yeah, there should be options that could do a good job for them.
I'd like to start seeing solar panels that actually follow the sun through the sky during the day.
Well, there are, aren't the farms, most of the farms do tracking also?
The big
Big
ground
farms,
installations, I think, do, but a lot of the rooftop stuff, even if it's a flat roof,
Yeah, you
doesn't.
have.
Stable, yeah.
But I know it
have,
causes
Cost and
complications.
complication. They do have a lot of these dual-sided ones where you can get sunlight from either
Yeah.
side. And I've seen people do setups where they put like mirrors on the bottom,
Reflect
so that
Yeah.
as it goes, you're getting reflection, you're getting direct on both sides, and you're getting reflections and stuff like that could
That's interesting.
really change what your power curve looks like throughout the day.
Yeah.
I don't know what they have available for, putting on the top of a large building. The other thing to consider with large buildings is depending on how big it is and there's some differences between commercial and residential rates and thresholds for generating a certain amount. They might be able to get different arrangements for selling their power than I can as one house. So, I mean, the real limiting factor right now is that I can't sell my stored power. So when they had that price spike in the middle of the month, ideally, thousands of residential customers who have full batteries could all have contributed their power to the grid and mitigated that problem. But nobody has the ability to do that in New Hampshire. So, and I think at a certain scale, commercial operations can do that, but residential can't, so.
Yet.
Yeah.
I
Well,
really
yet
hope that
in New
changes.
Hampshire,
I really
actually,
hope that
and-
changes.
No, I mean, the technology completely exists,
Oh, yeah, all the
I
states
think-
around us do it.
Yeah,
So,
well, and I think in
uh,
Europe, I've heard of like minute-to-minute pricing, like the
Yes,
the
I mean,
pricing
I'd
is
rather, I'd
fully integrated.
like to see it second to second, it should be immediate. Because the software already exists in my home to do that. I could set it to say, power price goes above this level, sell this much of my battery. And everybody could have a preset for that, depending on how much they want to save for themselves and how much they want to contribute to the grid. And there's no reason not to take advantage of that. We should be.
So there are work groups at the Public Utility Commission, that are trying to work on grid modernization and net metering, extension and all of these things. But it's a lot of money. We're kind of a little bit behind on upgrading meters and facilities, so I'm not quite sure how it's gonna get done, honestly. But they're talking about it, and it does exist.
Yeah.
I imagine it will come to a vote if it ever gets there, or would it need that even?
Yeah, great
Is that
question.
something that has to go through the
Right,
legislature?
does it
Yeah.
need to go to the legislature? I'm not sure, the working group is in the Public Utility Commission, so I'm not sure, that's a good question. Probably a combination.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gathering
would
a
think
combination.
so.
I suspect there
Yeah.
will be a bill for it in the legislature this
Yeah.
year.
This year, you think?
I think so.
I'm just
So-
surprised. I think New Hampshire's kind of behind the gun on a lot of this because, and not just electric, water, and other things that I just think that we as a state have to look at how we be more efficient with our resources and provide them at a lower cost. It's sad. We're in a we have filed in a water case, so we're watching our water case, but, and that's another utility that's very costly in Litchfield.
Yeah.
So sometimes the smaller towns have higher rates depending on who their providers are. But we've got to do a better job. People should not be paying high prices for things that
Right.
you need to survive, right? So, I mean, you need electricity to survive, you need water to survive, you know, heat. And so, we've got to do a better job at lowering those prices.
And I'm so glad you said that. I've not said, I try and say it in every meeting, which is that if people haven't gone to New Hampshire Saves already, if anyone is still listening or watches this later, to go to the New Hampshire Saves website. If you don't see something there the first time you go, then go back again a month or two later. Programs do run out of money at various times. They, add incentives. But it does help you, especially when you're making a decision about appliances. You can get money back for appliances or a heating system, or the thing that is really savings and people don't realize is that New Hampshire Saves will pay for insulation in your house. So it may or may not reduce your electric bill, but it will reduce your energy use and your energy bills. So it's, definitely everybody who hasn't checked that out should, for your own cost savings first, and for what you were just saying about just conserving it for everybody, if people do water conservation in a town and avoid or delay an upgrade, then that saves everybody money.
Absolutely.
And that's true of the electric grid too, so.
And we do mention Southern New Hampshire Services if you're having trouble making your payments.
Yeah.
And that is on our website. Certainly as the weather gets colder, we don't want anyone to go without. So.
Yeah, they're a great organization. Yeah.
All right, is there any further discussion? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a motion by John,
Second.
second by Eric. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. And Emily, thank you
Thank you very
for
much.
coming out.
Oh,
and
Thanks,
giving us an
Emily.
it's
update.
nice to be with you, to check in and.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Nope, motion passes 3-0-0. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Okay. Yeah, and just reach